Hi, I'm Steve Cleary with Revelation Media, and today I am joined by a famous author, Karen Kingsbury, whose new movie comes out today. So I'm especially excited to talk to Karen and find out more about the movie and how we can go see it. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
So I have, I have to ask you this, and I guess I should know, but I don't know because the number is like all over the place. How many books have you written?
I mean, I know it's more than 60 novels, and I think like close to 100 when you add kids' books, gift books, whatever else. I don't know. It's a lot of books. I really don't keep track of it. It's so funny.
Okay, so now I don't feel as bad not knowing the
Yeah,
number because you don't know the number either.
that's right.
Well, I am sure almost everybody listening to this interview already knows who you are, and your books have impacted so many people. Roughly, how many books have you sold?
Well, it's approaching 30 million now, which is like wild. I just can't, every time I think of that, I think, I don't know, to God be the glory.
Amen. I was talking to an author yesterday, and he was saying that nowadays you write a book, and if the publisher prints 10 or 15,000, you're happy. And that, but there's still authors out there that God is using to impact millions and millions of people. And now you've had movies made on your books before, right?
I have, yes, Hallmark, and there was one that was a theatrical about 10 years ago, and TV show with PureFlix. We've got the Baxters coming out on Prime Video that releases. It should be out now, actually, everywhere. So there've been lots of things, but nothing that I made myself until Someone Like You.
Yeah, so this is what I really want to talk to you about. The movie Someone Like You. I watched the movie with my wife, and we had such a busy week when we watched it. Thank you for the viewing link. And we watched it really late at night. And we were just kind of laying on the couch together watching the movie, and my wife, usually we talk and we chat during movies, and she was really quiet. And I thought, oh no, it was so late. Did she fall asleep? And I turned over to look, and she was just crying and crying. And I said, honey, I says, are you crying? And she said, it's so touching, it's so moving. And your movie, Someone Like You, is incredibly moving. And so even for someone like me that may be more watching action movies, I was really moved by this movie that is based on a book by the same title, right?
It is, and thank you so much. It's so good to hear. Yeah, Someone Like You is a book that released in 2020, and the readers just loved it. And it was right when I wrote it, and when I got to the last page, I felt like I could hear God say, "This is going to be your first movie." Now, it wasn't the first time that I'd heard the Lord really prompting me to do our own movie, but I was busy writing, first of all, raising kids. Obviously that's my first priority is my family and my relationship with Jesus. But I would always kind of think, well, someone else can do it. I'm not a filmmaker. I don't know how to make a movie. But as time went on, it's like I was always so blessed by things that were made on my books and thankful, but it was never the movie that God had put on my heart to start the process. And I thought, the only way to do that really is to do it myself. But it was terrifying because I didn't know. But I began to pray the same thing every day, and I'm still praying it now as we are, right at the beginning line of the release in theaters. And that is, please, Lord, give me wisdom because I don't know how to do this, and I'm inexperienced, and I don't know anything about this. And then please give us your favor. And what he did initially to answer that prayer was he brought along, the initial above the line people. So my son was ready for his directorial debut, Tyler Russell. So he was willing, and his friend Trevor, who is a young married guy that lives in our area and who's an incredible director of photography. We had a meeting initially, and then hired a local producer, Natalie Ruffino Wilson, who would also be making her producing debut with this theatrical movie. And the four of us sat around the table, and as we prayed for wisdom, God brought the most talented crew and cast that we could, ever imagine. And it was right here in Nashville. And we filmed the movie in the fall of 22. And I've been with the movie every inch of the way. So that what you see on the theaters when you go and see Someone Like You, and it's People are really treating it like it's a very big release. I mean, it's something people are looking forward to. There's a lot of hype around it. But you are going to see the movie that God truly put on my heart to begin the whole process with this story.
That's amazing. And I really, we always encourage independent filmmakers, especially, with Christian films, and always wanting to share those opportunities with all our family and all our friends at Revelation Media. And there's so many things I want to talk to you about this movie, but I want to let the listeners, I want you to let you know this movie comes out today, Monday. If you're watching this today, get a movie ticket. I guarantee you will not be disappointed. It's a great date night movie. Or if you're just, out and about with your friends, it is an amazing movie to see. And I know we are normally talking about Bible movies. We're normally talking about, archaeology movies, but this movie is something about it. And so to take a fictional story and really impact people with hope, I think it's very difficult to do, and I think it's hard to do. And I have to tell you something in a minute, Karen, about my life, why this movie impacted me. And so I want you to talk a little bit how you, because I know you're doing this because you want people to have hope and hope in Jesus, but it's a fictional story, right? And so how did you really see what was on your heart to create a fictional story that would glorify God?
Well, this is sort of the way, I mean, with my work, I'm writing books and now making movies that number one, obviously I want you to be entertained. So if you can't, you have to be able to not put the book down. And with the movie, you have to be able to not look away. Like it has to capture you and take you on a beautiful adventure. I love to write about love and love stories, but it's never simple. There's always something high concept. And for someone like you, which some theaters will have it today. Most of them, it's going to be an April 2nd release. So tomorrow, so you still have time to get those front row seats or middle seats. But with a movie like this one, the concept was part of why I knew it belonged on the big screen, and that is embryo adoption. And there's never been a movie made on embryo adoption. So when this idea came to me, I had just spent some time at a speaking event, and this woman who was helping me around, sort of my hostess, she had 3 children with her, triplets, and they were about 4 years old. And I commented that they were so cute, and she said, "Well, they're all adopted as embryos." And I had never heard of that. I had no idea that a person struggling with fertility could adopt an embryo, or anyone could adopt an embryo. And she said that, that she and her husband couldn't have children. So they adopted 8 embryos, implanted 3, all 3 took. And later they hope to have more children and maybe even 8 children if that's what God provided. So that was like mind blowing. And I did a little research and I found out that, there are more than 500,000 embryos on ice, like in deep cryopreservation, awaiting adoption. And these embryos are really healthy. Like they can be on ice for 20 years and still be kind of brought
Wow.
to term. Yeah. So, I mean, to me, that was like science has raised questions only God can answer. And so I began to just think on it and imagine what about a family where they didn't tell their child that the child was adopted as an embryo? That'd be easy to do because you have all the maternity pictures of the mom, and yet still this child's not biologically related. And then God just dropped this movie on my heart. And I think, the point of it is like, I never go into a storytelling process with a book or, in making this one into a movie, thinking, how can I get a message across about faith? That's just so much a part of who I am. And I love Jesus so much that, he spills into my story. So I write about the physical, intellectual, and emotional parts of storytelling, but because I love the Lord and walk with the Holy Spirit, that's just a part of my storytelling, whether the character is running toward God or away from God. I'm comfortable writing about it, and it makes for a deeper story. So in someone like you, you've got a couple different things: twin sisters who never met, separated at the petri dish, a family who couldn't have a second child and didn't want to throw this embryo down the drain, so donated it to a fertility specialist, never looked back. And then a child, who grew to be a full adult, a 24-year-old, and doesn't know that she's not biologically related to her family. So this is a lot of conflict. Well, whenever you have
Mm.
conflict and tragedy that happens in this movie, as one of the sisters, is tragically killed fairly early in the movie. That's life. Like life has those sorts of moments of betrayal, loss, division. And now the question comes down to how do you handle it? And what I am showing people with someone like you, and you'll see this in theaters as it opens tomorrow, is a picture of what it looks like to forgive. And there's one line that really stands out, and that is, where it is a love story, and the guy is a young architect, Dawson, and he's telling Andi, look, your parents made a big mistake, but right now you're the only one who can fix it. And that's a picture of what Jesus is calling us to do, sacrificially to accept forgiveness, to accept an apology, and to do what we can to not be divided, because that's where it begins. It begins in our families. And if we can let God lead us to a healed relationship despite loss and betrayal, then we can show the world what it looks like to follow him.
Well, I mean, I think you did an amazing job doing that. And again, I think it's extremely hard to do it with fiction, and you absolutely nailed it. Um, I'll share with you because as I was watching it. So I found out when I was nearly 50 years old that I didn't belong to half of my family. And so I found out that I had a whole nother family that never knew I existed, and I never knew they existed. And even now it's affecting me just talking about it, because it happened, so late in my life. And I began to, some of the other family members were like, why is this such a big deal? You are a family, you're my brother. My aunt said, you're my nephew. And it's like all these people said it's all family. And then some of the same things in your movie and in your story, but the girl who was affected by it, even my wife is saying, why is she so affected by this? And I'm thinking to myself, I know why she's so affected by this, because I found out it wasn't my whole family, but half my family was somebody else, was a whole nother family. My father was not my father when I finally did a DNA test at like 48 years old.
Mm.
And so I'm starting to see in a fiction story, but I'm seeing what happened in my life and how I've handled it. And I found out that my birth father had died, so I never got a chance to meet him.
Mm.
And he died in something very similar that I could have died in. And so it just became more real to me. And I ended up calling up some of the family members and telling them who I was. I did not get a chance to go meet them, and like is revealed in your story. But there's just a lot of true life in your story. I mean, this is not like far-fetched, right? I had never heard of embryo adoption either. But I'm saying like real life is playing out on the screen, real hurt, real tragedy, the real need for forgiveness. And I'm just so impressed that you decided. So now tell me why, because obviously people are willing to make movies on your books, and they should be on best-selling books. You chose, this is a Karen Kingsbury production. Tell me what led you to say, I'm going to make this movie myself, which is very difficult to do.
Yes, it is. We're just now, I mean, we're at one finish line and one, starting line in terms of being in the theaters, but there were so many, I mean, since the summer of 22 was when I just couldn't get it off my heart that this had to be a movie and that we wanted to make it. Again, I've had books optioned, and then it's like you kind of sign the papers and maybe they invite you out to set, and that's about it. And what you end up seeing on the screen, for better or worse, is just not necessarily the story that I would have written, the way I would have told it. And so, and my readers have loved it, and it's all been fine, but it wasn't what I wanted. I had something deeper to say. I had more to tell. And so I was compelled to write the script. And I've been doing screenwriting. I've got my son Tyler and I do a lot of screenwriting together, and we had written the Pure Flix series, A Thousand Tomorrows, all 6 episodes of that. And we'd written a Hallmark movie together. So we had experience in screenwriting. But usually one of us takes the first draft. And for this one, for someone like you, I wrote the first draft on a beach, on our summer vacation. I was just so compelled. I was so caught up in the story and I could see it. And then I looped him in and I said, I need your help. Like, I need you to help me with the screenwriting because he's really talented. So I need to give it to you. It's like, you need to read it, you do a pass. And it was a realization that we would have to pay for it. And I think that was the thing, like, to our financial people would say to us, this is not a good idea to pay for this movie. We had a 2 million, we'd set aside, okay, this is the money we have, $4 million, $2 million to make the movie and 2 million to promote it. And that was it. And we didn't have any studio help. In fact, we actually went to the studios once we filmed it, and nobody, they had their dance card. One studio said, our dance card is full. And I said, okay, so that's why we're using Fathom. Fathom is not just doing events anymore. They're doing full theatrical releases. And that's what this is with someone like you. But it was like that realization. And my husband and I had this moment where it was kind of, we had this money. Do we just buy some houses and sit on the porch and wonder what would have happened if we would have made our own movie? And my husband put his hands on my shoulders, and he's an amazing, godly man. He has been my best friend. We've been married 36 years. And he said, Karen, I believe in you. I will help you. We have to do this, even if we have to sell everything.
Wow.
And yet, neither one of us money doesn't drive us, people drive us. The love for God and the love for people, wanting people to have hope and healing and not to be walking around lonely and divided, like people have been doing really since the pandemic. So it was like, it's like an offering. Like, we're going to do this. We're going to do it to the best of our ability. We're going to ask him for wisdom and favor. And we started by doing pre-production in our house. And we have a big house, but um, I think I probably wouldn't do that again, just because I would think they need more of a traditional space. But we brought them in, and 50 people were coming and going from our house. We fed them
If,
well. We did a devotion each morning as we met. Not everybody was a believer, but I kept it very positive. Like, God sees you. He has plans for you. And they knew it was something different. And they took a chance on me as much as I was taking a chance on them. We got to started filming in October of 22, and Tyler, it was his now. And I handed it over to him. I knew he was ready. I took a back seat in Video Village, and Tyler led everyone in prayer every single shooting day. Like, of the 25 days we shot, he circled everyone up and asked God to be a part of it. And we asked people, let's not be cussing on set. Let's make this a movie that honors God. Whatever your beliefs, let's just trust that he is in this. And everyone did. Everyone actually respected that. So we had a surreal, everyone said it's like the most amazing experience that they'd had. And the actors that we brought in from LA, we had such talented actors. They're ones that will be, especially our young actors, Jake Allen and Sarah Fisher will be household names someday. And we will be like, how in the world did God, let us have them before they were at that point? But yeah, it just has been just such an incredible experience. And now I cry when I watch the movie, even though I've seen it 100 times, as much because of the storyline as because I can see the fingerprints of all that God has done, miracle after miracle, and letting this movie come to the big screen and be in theaters this week.
well, I mean, if you're listening, if you've read our email, you need to go see this movie. Need to buy some tickets. For me, it was a great date night. Even though I watched it before I got the chance to watch it before it came out in theaters, and thank you for that. My wife wouldn't stop talking about just how sweet it was, how special it was, and all the characters. I was amazed by. I knew you paid for it, and so that's a real step of faith. I didn't know if you were free for us to talk about that, because I mean it's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money for a feature film. And so I screen a lot of films, and most of them we just kind of say we wish you well. We don't get involved with. There a lot of them have spent $5, $6, $7 million putting together a film, and sometimes they're just cheesy, And your film is very professionally done. I don't think anybody would guess. I don't think anybody in the industry would guess it was a $2 million budget. I think they would say this looks like a $5 million budget. And so I really think you did an amazing job bringing on, and I think that's one of the secrets, right? Bringing on fresh talent.
Yeah.
They're going to be on, their name's going to be out there, and you have the ability to see that. So I commend you for that. Um, and the movie very moving, and it's actually 2 hours. I mean, it's not like a lot of independent films are shorter too. They may be 90 minutes.
Yeah.
A Fathom events are shorter, and I've worked with Fathom. I think Fathom's done an amazing job distributing films in theaters, and you're getting a full theatrical week, right? At least. And tell
Yeah,
us about that. How many theaters are you in?
we're pushing toward 2,000 screens right now, which is like mind blowing. We're very, very happy. I'd like to be in 2,400, so we'll see where it goes. But the originally, when we first went on sale with tickets, it was about 1,400 screens. So that keeps on adding every time we have another day of reporting. And, it's Fathom has been a great team to work with. I feel like one of the things I've loved is that it's not like, well, the 12th floor has to sign off on that. Or, well, let us get with our committee. It's like, here are the 10 people. We get on a Zoom call every Monday and we talk about it and we handle things in real time. We make decisions in real time. And that has worked to the benefit of the film for sure. Creatively, some of my favorite comments, one from a producer at Universal who looked at it and he said, this looks like a $30 million movie. That's what he said. He was like, this is amazing. And he said, God alone knows how you made this. And he meant it sort of facetiously, as people use, God's name just kind of however. And I said, well, you know what? Actually, it was God alone. And not to take anything away from the cast and crew, because they were amazing, but God brought them. And then, he had to keep them healthy. And these were the kind of people you don't know. You're paying people sometimes six figures and you hadn't even met them. And you don't know what sort of
Mhm.
person they're going to be and if they'll be, I mean, you just have no idea. It's so many unknowns. We still had to have COVID compliance when we were filming this. And, all of the things that could have derailed it. And I think there was one day where I went to our local producer and I said, Natalie, what if somebody gets COVID? We only have this actor for 4 days. And she said, Karen, everything can go wrong. You can't, if you're going to be worried about that, you shouldn't do it. I thought, okay, here's my chance to test my faith, right? To walk out the faith that I deeply believe in. And I said, all right, Lord, we're just going to keep our eyes up. And literally, God gave us perfect weather for every single shooting day. The 2 days that it rained during our 25-day shoot were the 2 days that we were in the cemetery filming. And if we'd had a high budget, you would have wanted to water everything down and make it feel like a kind of a gloomy day where it had just rained. And that's what God gave us. Exactly. I mean, there were just time after time, we didn't have jet skis. You can't rent jet skis in November. That was the only week we could get that glass house to film in. Getting the glass house was another miracle, but just the fact of being able to get jet skis, nobody was renting them that late in the year. And sure enough, we had a friend call and said, are you looking for jet skis? I said, yeah, we really are. We're not wanting to do canoes. We want jet skis. And she said, well, I have a friend who has a friend and they love your books. They live on Smith Lake and they just bought two brand new jet skis and they would love to have you use them with one condition. They will not, they will not let you pay for it. Like, okay. So we were the first film company to ever film at the Nashville Zoo. Like God opened doors of favor. We were asking for wisdom and favor. And even there were moments along the way, like we had hired a sound company initially that just wasn't meeting our bar and everything else was so high. So just at the last minute, like I said, we got to cut it. Even if it costs us extra money, we got to cut them and bring it to somebody in Nashville. And that's what we did. And then we had Insight Studio finish our sound design or really complete it, do the whole thing. Along the way, there were just these moments where I wouldn't know what to do and God would just give us wisdom. So, I watch someone like you and I'll go to the theaters tomorrow and I'll be we've already added an extra 5 showtimes at my theater, which means it's doing well. Um,
Wow.
and I'll cry and I'll be crying at the faithfulness of God in every minute of that film.
It's amazing because when I watched the scenes of the jet skis, and I used to have a pair of jet skis similar to that, and I'm thinking, I never would have thought, wait a minute, you're in November, where you're going to get jet skis. And so people don't realize everything that has to come together, for you to do something like this. And I mean, I guess, you can't tell everybody can't know all the little miracles that takes place in a movie like this. I saw the zoo and I told my wife, I'm like, they pulled off filming in a zoo. And I didn't imagine that was easy to do. And I assumed you shot it in Nashville. The glass house was amazing. And, to be able to use that as a set, I'm like, that is just a beautiful house. So you guys really got beautiful sets. It was fun seeing stuff at the zoo. And so I really commend the work of excellence on that. I don't think very many people have come close to pulling off what you pulled off. And it's your first film. So, I know you give glory to God, but you have to feel good when you watch this movie and know, I mean, the satisfaction has to already be there from watching the film and knowing how God brought it all together.
Yeah, it really is. Like, we only did really 3 screenings because we didn't want to go around the country doing screenings. We wanted to keep that element of surprise and allow the buzz to force people to only find the answers at the theater. We don't have a streaming deal. We don't have any plans for what's next. This is where it is. It's in the theaters. We want people to come back to the theaters. We believe in it, and we believe that a beautiful love story like this has a place next to all the very dark and then also big tentpole movies that really seem to make up, the most of it. Like this weekend, there's really just us and 2 very dark movies that will be opening. And I mean, there's some ones that have been in theaters for a few weeks, but it's really, there's a place for this. And so I look at it and watch it, and I am so happy. I mean, I'm so satisfied with the excellence at every level that, I was in the editing room and I don't know how to edit a movie, but I know they shouldn't be brushing elbows if this girl hasn't broken up with that guy yet. So I
Right.
can help stay true to the story because I'm so critical when I watch a movie. Like, I'm like, well, that's not motivated. Like, why? I have all these questions, and rare is the day that I say that was a perfect movie. And when I'm watching someone like you, like, I'll glory to God, but I feel like it's a perfect movie.
I mean, it really comes together right. There was nothing, and I'm no movie critic. I criticize my own movies. It really flowed perfectly, and it really came together. And again, it's over 2 hours. I think it's right at 2 hours. And
Yeah.
so to carry it, and we never laughed. I mean, we were watching it on a computer, laying down on the couch, and we were glued to it. And I would encourage anybody to go to the theaters to see it. I remember reading a quote from Elon Musk. He says you can have a bad product with a bunch of marketing, or you can have a really good product that people talk about. And if you think about, what he has done and how little he has spent on marketing, I really think, and we saw this with our film, The Pilgrim's Progress, I really think you're going to sell more tickets from word of mouth than you are from the actual ad spend, because people are going
Yeah.
to go see it and they're going to say, this is a really good movie to see. This is not your typical independent cheesy Christian film. This is like a studio quality film with a great script that's really going to impact you, and you'll probably relate to some of it some way. And again, I shared how I related to it in a very, very deep way, but just to be moved by the hope, and it's not cheesy where you kind of let people, I don't want to give away the movie, but you let people remain sad as well. You don't sugarcoat the story. You let the story just unfold in its reality. And I think that's amazing. So you said people are adding screens already, additional
Art.
showing theaters.
Our AMC theater here in the Franklin, Tennessee area has added multiple showtimes, which, again, it's just like that. It's just exactly what you want to see. It's one of the top theaters in the nation for a film that has any kind of faith message. But I think what I'm loving most of all, and I go to a dentist who happens to be a Christian, but I never say I go to a Christian dentist, and as a filmmaker and a storyteller, I'm never one to want to be siloed into a space that says this is a Christian film or this is a Christian book. It's a book, it's a movie, and it will touch you. And one like that would be like The Blind Side. The Blind Side was, Academy Award winning movie because it was just a beautiful, heartfelt story. And yes, it had themes and discussions of Christian faith, but no one called it a Christian movie. So I love that in interviews that I've been doing, people are just calling it a beautiful love story or, an epic sweeping romance. And of course, Jesus's name is mentioned several times organically as it comes up in discussion. Someone's reading a Bible, but they're just when I'm having my quiet time, I'm not giving a sermon. I'm just have the Bible open as I have a cup of coffee and I'm just on the front porch. And that's what you see with a character who's at the end of this journey of uh, dramatic loss and grief, and realizing you'll live with that pain forever. But still, if you can turn your eyes up, if you know that God has reminded you of all you do have still, you're going to be okay. Those are amazing messages that people want to hear, and it doesn't have to be put into a little box.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm probably not gonna tell people, I'm not gonna tell my friends go see this movie. It's an amazing romance story. But I'm gonna say it's a story of hope. And I think that's the
Yes.
word I'm gonna put on it. And I would be the worst person in the world to comment on a romantic movie. My wife would laugh at me, but I'm always looking for hope and a message. And I didn't feel like Christianity was thrown at me. I didn't feel like you hid from faith, and I didn't feel like you forced faith. I felt like you
Amen.
found a balance just to let faith flow,
Yeah.
like it would in people's lives. And it doesn't mean everybody in the film appreciated that faith, right? And so some people had faith and some people didn't, and some
Right.
people struggled with it. And so I felt it very natural that way. Now I noticed on your website, and so we can talk about this for a minute, you're also inviting people to buy tickets for other people to go. Kind of a do you call it a pay it forward model? I know Angel doesn't own pay it forward. It's been around a long time, but is that your heart and your mission? And talk about what people can do on your website.
Yeah, we're calling it Share the Hope. So you're right. That's what I would say. It's a drama, it's a family story. It's a story about love and loss and redemption. And it's a story about hope. And when people ask me, what do you want people to walk out of the theaters with? The answer is hope. I've had people in advanced screenings come up to me 2 different times and say, they're choked up, but they have a happy, like a radiant look, and they say, "I was healed emotionally while I was watching your movie." So it's striking an emotional chord, and they're walking out with hope that they didn't have, hope that there could be forgiveness, hope that there
Mhm.
might be a way to overcome hurt or to live with grief and loss or loneliness. And that is a big, big task. And I don't feel like I want money or a lack of money to stop people from seeing this movie. So we've invited my readers, future moviegoers to take part and to donate. It's not even donating, it's buy a ticket for a stranger. Some people are buying 10. One person bought 100 tickets. That's
Well,
a big investment in believing that this movie will make a difference. And then you can go to the website, to someonelikeyou.movie, and you can go ahead and claim a ticket. There's no questions asked. If you can't afford a ticket, get one for free at someonelikeyou.movie. Likewise, if you see the movie and you say, wow, I think people could use the hope about this, and buy a ticket for a stranger, and let's keep that. It's like, sometimes you'll be in a coffee line at a drive-through coffee and someone's paid for your order. And you're like, oh, that's amazing. I'll pay for the guy behind me. And it's kind
mm,
of that idea that I didn't crowdfund to pay for this movie. I made it for you. I made it for the ones who are going to see it, starting tomorrow in theaters everywhere. And I want those people to understand that, like, I didn't ask for the money to make it, but now that you see it, if it touches your heart, help us out, buy a ticket for someone else so that nobody has to miss out.
so I think that's a great idea, and I'm going to encourage our audience to go see the movie. You guarantee you won't be disappointed. Go to the website and make sure you go to someonelikeyou.movie, not .com, .movie. I know people often confuse those with our websites as well. And if you liked it, buy some tickets for somebody. I think that's an awesome thing to do. I'm definitely going to try to get some people to go see this and spread the word around my friends and families as well. I don't know. I mean, for me, it was a date night. It was a wonderful thing just to experience it with my wife. But you talk about real ministry and what people go through, and I shared what I had to go through, but with my mother never telling me I had another family. And actually, she did never tell me. I found out on my own, and then I confronted her with it. And that was like 16 years ago, and I'm still asking myself if I've completely forgiven her. And
Mm,
so you talk about people coming out of the theater, and some people may come out that have lost love. Some people may come out that have hope for love, and some people may come out that have made a mistake. And maybe like one of the families that felt like they made a big mistake in not talking to their child about them being adopted. And so for me, it's am I really forgiving? And I have forgiven my mother, but it still lingers within me that because I feel like she robbed me from a whole part of my life I could have had with a whole
Yeah.
nother family. I have
Mhm.
siblings I've never met. And so
Yeah.
in the movie, the siblings meet, and I cheer that, no, they don't meet, but the siblings are there and the families meet, but I never had that opportunity. And I was inspired. I mean, I could have thought I was watching a true story.
Wow.
And I know you write, novels, but that's the best part, right? When you really feel like when you can put yourself in the story. So limited theaters today, full theaters tomorrow,
Yep.
right? Tuesday. If you're watching this on Monday, and someone like you, so 24, you're hoping for 2,400 theaters, and that's, Pilgrim's Progress came out on 800 and something. So 2,400, congratulations, that's huge. And when we did the Torched for Christ movie, it came out on 500. And so to come out on 2,400, you typically have to be a full studio film. I don't
Yeah.
think very many independent films, unless you already have a track record. This is your first film, and it's going to be hard for you to top it. What's next for Karen in the movie business?
Well, we've had a few meetings, just sort of casually, and we had one kind of formal meeting with the local producer, Natalie Rufino Wilson, and Trevor Ball, the DP, who was behind the camera, and then Tyler Russell, the director. So the four of us, and then Trish, my sister. And this is how much my family was involved in making this movie. So we've all been working together with my books for a long time. My sister Trish, my younger sister, is my executive assistant. And as I've been writing books, she would book my calendar, she would handle press, media, accounting. There was a lot she handled. She worked, still works at my home office here. Well, when we were sitting down at first to start talking about someone like you, Natalie, the producer, the local producer, she said, "You're going to need a line producer, by the way." I said, "Line producer, what's a line producer do?" And she said, "Well, that person's very important. They got to handle SAG and insurance and accounting and payroll." I said, "Okay, just a sec." So I walked 25 feet, knocked on the door. Trish opens the door. I said, "Trish, you might want to Google line producer because you're the line producer." I knew she could handle it. And we worked with the Tennessee Film Commission, and she had every I dotted, every T crossed. You have to have 3 audits, 2 internal and 1 external, and we passed with flying colors. We had $290,000 given back to us, which we used on our music budget. We spent it on that. And so she was in this meeting too, and we all are kind of at the point of, we have 3 properties, 3 of my books identified that would make a great second movie, but it depends on how this one does. So if this one does very well, we have a higher budget one in mind that will, one that has World War II flashbacks, and one that's got some military scenes with helicopters. That's just going to be more expensive. And one that would be more relationally, in the same budget-ish, area that we are now. So we're going to wait and see. And I think, God will make it clear if I'm supposed to just take my laptop out of my rocking chair and keep writing books, or if we're going to be blessed to do another movie.
Well, and I would predict you're going to end up in the movie business, and fortunately or unfortunately, it becomes kind of a bug, right? And you want to do it, and you see things, on your computer or on the big screen, but you don't have a streaming contract. So if people want to see the film, it's 1 week, right? Will they extend to 2 weeks, or is it just one
Oh no,
week?
they'll extend it 3 months if it does well. Like, it's going to be a full theatrical release. So the people at Fathom think it'll stay longer, but it will not stay longer if people don't see it. And the best time to see it, if you want to make a statement, if you want to like rally behind this movie, it's between now and Sunday. I mean, it's, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Those are the days that are going to make an impact and tell the, Hollywood and the theatrical industry as a whole that yes, this movie should stay, or that's it. And if that's it, we're at peace with that. Even if we lost everything, we're at peace with it. We made the movie that God told us to make. People are loving it. Hollywood itself is like standing by and kind of remarking, whoa, like this could be actually an outlier. But it's up to you. It's up to the people who are, listening, and them going to go see it, getting a ticket for a stranger, getting those who can't afford it, telling them to grab a free ticket. Go see it now, and then we'll make a statement, and then we can stay in, it could be a long time.
Well, I hope so. I truly do. And I think it is important. It is important for the body of Christ to come out, be supportive. And so we often complain about what Disney is putting out, what Hollywood is putting out, what, woke movies are putting out. And thank you for not compromising on any of that whatsoever, if I can say that. Thank you, because it's getting more and more rare for people not to be pressured to create that little woke moment, even if it's just here and there. And so you did not do that whatsoever. And I think Christians come out early, and I think non-Christians or seekers come out after.
Yeah,
And it's just going to be, they don't need to come out of the movie and say, I want to be saved. There's going to be seeds planted. People often say, we put something out and it gets views, and they say, well, how do you know if people get saved or not? I said, we don't. And it's not our responsibility. The Bible clearly states that some plant seeds, some water, and God alone has the increase.
man,
And so I believe, to a lot of believers, you're going to water and help them grow in their faith, and help them face some situations. I believe for non-Christians, you're going to plant seeds, and maybe for seekers, and say, that they have to ask themselves, where are they in faith? And none of us have guarantees for tomorrow, right? And so
right.
you have a tragic scene in the
Yeah,
movie, and it hits home. I had not read the book, so it came as a twist for me. And my wife and I were like, oh no, what's going to happen next in this story? And it happens fairly early on. And so you do address pain, you do address loss, and we all have to make decisions on our faith. So thank you for making it. I hope to see a lot more Karen Kingsbury films coming in the future. Go to the movie this week, Tuesday through Sunday. Let's rally behind this movie, because it truly is an amazing story. Then go to the movie site, someone like you movie, buy some tickets for somebody else, bless somebody else that can't afford to go, but they're really going to be blessed by it. Let's keep this movie in theaters. And I think that's the best news I will hear next week, is that Fathom has extended it and extended it. And like you said, theaters will keep adding showtimes. But thank you for being faithful to just make a movie that honors God and does not compromise the Christian faith, without being cheesy, just being professional. You did an amazing job. I can't believe it's your first film. People probably won't believe it.
thank you so
So
much.
thank you,
It
Karen.
means a lot. Thank you.